Hi, welcome to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. I'm Elizabeth Katzman, and today we are joined by Deb Klungel. Deb is a vegan raw food chef, and she also has a website, rawfoodteacher.com, with her schedule and recipes and a lot of interesting information. Today we're going to be making a raw pumpkin pie and talking a little bit about Deb's philosophy and all the things that she's got going on. Hi, Deb.
Hi, thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here. So we have a lot to cover because obviously you're very busy.
Yeah.
I know you've got a lot going on.
Yes.
You're teaching classes at Whole Foods in Rochester.
Yep, Rochester Hills.
And you're also teaching classes at the Raw Food Institute, is that right?
Heal Yourself
Heal
Institute.
Yourself Institute.
Yep. Andrea McNich's spot from Regeneration Raw. We just opened up a few weeks ago.
A lot of people have asked since her interview.
Yes.
She did such a great job.
Yep.
She's so interesting, and everybody's asking when Heal Yourself Institute is opening.
Yeah.
And so I was so excited to hear from you that.
Yeah, she had a space over on 4th Street, and there were some issues with the building, and she couldn't get permits to do some of the construction work. Anyway, long story. Now we have a space right at 5th Street in Maine. We're next to Barnes & Noble, right above Noodles & Company, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice. It's Heal Yourself Institute again, and it's in the Skylofts complex, and it's a beautiful open. It's really set up it's really beautifully set up for a teaching kitchen. So
it's a great location.
It's a great convenient location.
Close to highways for everybody to get to.
It's very centrally located. It's right around the street from Cacao Tree Cafe and Season Cafe. So. It's a wonderful spot to build this community.
And what's your philosophy? What kind of classes do you offer? What can people look for?
I focus mostly on raw foods. I do teach some vegan cooking classes as well, but I primarily focus on raw foods. And I want people to get more raw food in their daily diet, because we don't get enough fresh vegetables and fruits in our daily diet. And people think it's too complicated. So my classes all focus on quick and easy things that you can do on a daily basis when you get home from work and you're hungry. Mm-hmm. So I'm all about simple, nutritious, delicious foods.
Right, because a lot of raw cookbooks and even vegan cookbooks in general really can be pretty lengthy and a little bit complicated, and I think people maybe get turned off.
Yeah, I try to keep all my recipes. I have a lot of books, and I read them like novels. I've been cooking since I was 5 years old, just doing something as simple as preparing my own lunches, but and it's just kind of always stayed with me. It's been a lifelong hobby. And then I went vegan or vegetarian a number of years ago. I went vegan about 10 years ago, and then I started doing raw food more seriously a couple years ago when I took Andrea's teacher certification program. And what I found in reading all of these books is they're very complicated. They'll have a huge list, 15 to 20 ingredients, and people don't have the time to measure all that out and spend that kind of time putting something together. So I read a lot of books, but I use them not to follow the recipes, but I use them for inspiration to create my own recipes.
Right.
So all my recipes tend to be 5 to 6 ingredients, and they're all quick and easy things that you can do, usually in 15 minutes or less.
So what would you tell someone who said, I'm really interested in having a healthier lifestyle, eating more raw foods, but it's too time consuming for me to cut and wash, chop, all that stuff?
There are a couple things. One is, again, I can give them some recipes that are a lot quicker and easier. The other thing is sometimes it just takes a little prep work ahead of time. Maybe you go grocery shopping and you come home on a Sunday, and maybe you spend an hour that day doing a bunch of washing and chopping, so things are already in containers in the refrigerator. You can just grab and go.
That's what I found for me. That's the only way it really works for me, is I have to do it all at once, wash and cut and organize everything, and then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I know because of your schedule is busy, and where can people find all of your information, where you're going to be and what
all
classes?
Of my information, at least everything through 2011, is on my website, rawfoodteacher.com. I have a lot of new stuff planned too for 2012, but I don't have the website with all that information on it yet.
Yeah, well, I have this DVD, so you're going to be showing this?
January 19th, Thursday, January 19th at the Royal Oak Main Art Theater. Andrea McNich and I have teamed up to show Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and it's all about Joe Cross, who went on this 60-day juice fast, basically, to get healthy and lose weight. And he did a whole cross-country tour in the U.S. He's from Australia, but he came to the U.S. and is doing a cross-country tour and was just talking to people along the way and getting their ideas. And it was interesting because what I found not so inspiring wasn't him. It was actually the gentleman in the movie that he meets. And this other guy is almost 400 pounds, and he's very, and he's like really seriously considering suicide. He's just at his wit's end and doesn't know what to do. And Joe Cross inspired him. And so the second half of the movie is all about this truck driver that actually does the same program and loses all this weight and gets his life back. And
I can't wait to see it.
It's a wonderful movie. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
So, and for today, we're going to be making a
Today
raw
we're gonna
pumpkin
make
pie.
raw pumpkin pie that I tell everybody it tastes just like the traditional baked version. People are blown away by how delicious it is.
I'm really
and
excited
you
about
wouldn't even
this.
know it's raw if you didn't know it was raw, other than the fact that, instead of baking it, you freeze it. And it's a lot quicker and easier to prepare than a traditional pumpkin pie.
And it does look quick, and like you said, true to what you said, the ingredients list is short
Very short.
and makes it more easily approachable, I think.
Yep.
So
I'm also, my other philosophy is I like to teach people how to make food. I don't teach a recipe, I teach how to make food. So for example, in this particular recipe, I'm using pecans for my crust, but I'm trying to teach a process. So I have when I print recipes for people, I give all the different variations. If you don't like pecans, or if you
wanna
have a
use
problem, you can
walnuts
use walnuts or whatever it is. Yeah,
That's good advice.
I put a lot of those options on it. And as well, I'm just gonna do something simple with some nuts and some sweetener, but you could add a little cinnamon to the crust to give it a little flavor. You could add a little vanilla powder. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do to vary this up and give it a different flavor.
right.
So I have pecans already measured out.
And
I have a cup and a half.
With you, a cup and a half of pecans. Okay.
And then I've got my dates, and I soak these just to make them easier to blend up. You don't have to, but
Okay.
it does make it easier to mix in.
Okay.
So I'm going to mix those in. And I'm going to kind of chop these up first, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of the liquid sweetener, because the liquid sweetener helps hold it together.
Okay.
That's the purpose of that. So
And this is a nice size.
yeah, I have a bigger
good for
food
this.
processor, but I found I don't really, this one just,
That's much
especially
easier,
for
I
me,
think,
yeah,
right?
for me as a single person. This is even the one I use for classes, so
Yeah.
it even does large batches. It's really a nice food processor. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of sweetener. And this just depends. You can leave this coarse, or you can really grind it up. The other thing you can do, people are always asking for ways to use like almond milk or
Right.
almond pulp left over from making almond milk. I wouldn't do a cup and a half of almond pulp, but you could do maybe a cup of nuts
Right, that would be nice.
plus a half a cup of almond pulp.
Right.
So that's a good way to use up some of that pulp that's been in your freezer for a while that you don't know what to do
Yes.
The other thing I don't do in my classes right now is I don't use a dehydrator, because a lot of people, I had a spatula, here it is. A lot of people don't have dehydrators, especially
Right.
as they're trying to get into raw food. I want to make sure that my recipes, generally speaking, don't use any other fancy equipment. I do use my Vitamix.
That's nice.
Yeah, I do use my Vitamix. I do recommend people get a Vitamix because it just makes everything, it's easier to blend things, and it makes things so much smoother and creamier.
I talk about it all the time. I really do use that a couple times a day.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
worth the investment.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the dehydrator, you can really go crazy with the expenses.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you
especially
keep
for
it.
something that you don't know whether or not you're going to use it.
Right.
I'll set this over here out of the way.
Got it.
Thank you. So we're just going to put this in our pie pan.
I'm excited to try this. I've actually been looking for a long time for a good crust that isn't too dry. I've tried so many different ones.
Yeah,
and
this
I have
one's
yet
really
to
easy.
find one, so this could be it for me. That looks great.
I'm not, obviously not doing this in a regular pie pan today. I do oftentimes, if you want for presentation. For me, this is easier to serve out of. It's easier to cut and scoop from.
Right.
So if I were to make this at home, for me, this is the pan that I use, just because it's easier. I'm all about quick and easy
Right.
and simple stuff. So
And you're not cooking it, so it really doesn't
Right.
matter if it's in glass or.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't really matter. I prefer glass.
I prefer glass. but-
Absolutely.
yeah.
I like this too because it's see-through, so you can see how pretty it is when
Yeah.
it's done. So no, you don't have to have any. You don't have to use glass, but I like the glass.
I prefer to drink and cook and do everything
Yeah.
in glass if I can. And I know some people that eat raw don't like this question really because it's not a competition, but just out of curiosity, how much of what you eat do you think is raw?
I would say on a given day, I focus on greens. I notice if my body does not get enough raw, fresh greens, I have a big salad every day. So I would say on a given day, even in the wintertime, I'm 50 to 80% raw in my diet.
I noticed that too. I noticed a huge difference. I just a few weeks ago started putting in, every morning I start my morning with the raw juice. And I
Okay.
started putting in a big handful of kale,
Okay.
and I can notice such a big difference. In a couple days when I missed it, I could tell.
Yeah.
I did not feel as well.
Okay. So we're going to call that good for the moment. Do you have a towel I can wipe my
Looks
hands
nice,
off
sure.
on?
Grab you a little towel.
Okay. And then we're going to do the pie filling. And I'll set this up here out of the way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then
Okay.
the pie filling takes like 2 minutes. I mean, it's really super simple, easy.
You want to use this or?
No, I'm going to use the Vitamix
Okay.
for that. Let me put it over there.
Okay. Go. I'll plug it in.
Okay. And you'll notice I do have different containers for the Vitamix. This is the 48 ounce container instead of the big 64 ounce. So for the smaller batches, like the pie filling, it's a lot nicer. You don't need to dirty your great big container.
Yeah,
So,
that is nice.
yeah. Okay. So the pie filling is really simple. I've got carrot juice, and this is one of those things. I actually freshly juiced this last night. What
You know what? I always wonder how long does it keep? You know, when you
don't
juice,
keep-
are you supposed to drink it right then, or?
Well, if you do wheatgrass juice, it starts to oxidize really quickly. So you're supposed to drink wheatgrass within 15 minutes of actually juicing it. If you start to do green juices, ideally you drink it up in 24 hours. I mean, same like this, but this will keep in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
But
Because
it
I
just-
feel like
it'll
if I
just
don't
start
drink it right
losing-
then it's
yeah,
not.
it'll just start losing some of its nutrients. But I mean, it'll keep. It's not going to go bad on you or anything like that. So. Okay, so I did use my I have a Champion juicer, and I use that for this. I tell people though, again, that goes back to this, I don't want people to have to buy a bunch of special equipment
Right.
if they want to do raw food. So for something like this, if you want to go out and buy organic carrot juice, just go and do that. I know it's pasteurized,
Right.
it's not 100% raw, but it's better, than the
for
alternative.
sure.
The other option is to go to a lot of the Middle Eastern restaurants around. They have fresh juice bars. You can go and get fresh pressed.
Right, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you can go get fresh carrot juice, and there's a lot of them around. Or Cacao
are.
Tree Cafe, in
Right.
Royal Oak,
Right.
has got some. You can go get fresh juice there. You have a lot of options if you don't want to. If you still want to stay raw.
But yeah, you don't want to buy the juicer
Yeah,
and
right.
all the washing and.
Right. Okay, so we have 2/3
So people
of
at
a
home
cup.
right now are thinking carrots.
Carrots, I know.
pumpkin
No,
pie.
there's no pumpkin in the pumpkin pie, believe it or not. Okay, so I've got 2/3.
That's so funny. I just realized that there's no pumpkin.
You can make. There are recipes that have raw pumpkin in them for pumpkin pie, but I haven't found them to taste quite as. The raw pumpkin has such a squashy taste. It takes a lot to get it out. I make a raw squash soup, but you have to put a lot of other stuff in it so it doesn't taste too squashy. So the carrot juice is wonderful. So, all right, and then I think I want to say half a cup of coconut oil.
Do you,
I know I should have used yours.
Yeah, do you want?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's a half a cup of coconut
Half a
oil.
cup of coconut. You can see
So-
I'm not really good at measuring. I will warn you now. When I
For-
teach classes, I don't usually measure anything.
That's
I
fine.
kind of know
I'm like
about
a stickler.
how much. I know some
because
people.
I get worried that it's going to
And-
throw it off, and I
right.
feel like I don't want to put all the work in just.
It's
to
not
mess
an
it up,
exact
but-
science.
Yeah.
And I kind of just know by eyesight. But that's why I type out the recipes, because not everybody makes food the way that I do. So
And just so
I always
that-
I was putting measurements on my recipes.
Well, yeah, it's it depends on what kind of person you are. For me,
Yeah.
I'm a little more.
Yeah.
You have to follow it.
Yeah.
But just so everyone at home knows, this coconut oil is hard when it's at room. Well, it's usually
yeah.
it's firm when it's at room temperature. This
yeah.
was
This was in my car,
in the
so
it
it's
was
a little cold.
But if you want to liquefy it, you can put it in I usually do a glass with warm water.
Yeah.
Put the jar in it.
Or what I do at
And I
home is
can
I set it
liquefy
by
it.
my vent, my heater vent.
Yeah.
That works too. That's the quick and easy.
Yes. And even though it's more of a solid at room temperature, it's actually not an artery clogging bad fat. It's a really
No,
good
right,
fat.
because it's unlike animal fats. Animal fats are long chain fatty acids. Coconut oil is medium chain fatty acid, and so your body knows how to process it. It actually will be processed in your digestive system, whereas the long chain fatty acids and animal fats, they go right through your system and into your blood, and that's what clogs your arteries.
Right.
So people don't realize that, oh, well, this is saturated fat. Yeah, it is, but
Different.
it's totally different. Yeah, exactly.
So I know when people see it and they're thinking, oh, it's a really thick saturated fat, that
Yeah.
it makes them nervous. And I just want to make it clear that
Yep.
it's actually very healthy.
Yep. So we're going to put some maple syrup, and obviously maple syrup, there's plenty of it available in Michigan. This one actually came from my grandparents live in upstate New York, and so I'm kind of loyal to the farmer down the street.
That's so nice.
So I buy, every summer I go buy a couple gallons of maple syrup from Stonehouse Farms in upstate New York. So, okay, cashews.
Yeah, we do Michigan, but
yeah, you can get it at farmers markets around here, which is nice. All right, I have a half a cup of soaked cashews. So
how long do you soak them?
I soaked these were soaking for a while, but generally speaking for this recipe you want to soak them for at least 4 hours, and the reason you do that is for texture. It's not, some nuts you have to soak, like almonds you would have to soak to get the enzyme inhibitors out to make them more digestible and that kind of thing. Cashews, you don't need to do that, but you soak them because you want them to have the right texture so that they'll blend up and be smoother and creamier. If I use dry cashews in this recipe, I'd have to add a little more water, and it's still, even in the Vitamix, you'd have to process it for a lot longer. So this just makes it, whip up a lot faster. So actually I'm going to drain some of the water out of these.
And do you add sea salt to the water when you soak them?
I don't.
No.
I guess you could for flavor, but I guess I haven't. I don't.
Okay.
I tend to. People always want to add salt to my food. I tend to not keep. I don't make things very sugary, very sweet, very salty. So I always pass a salt shaker in my classes because people always want a little more salt than I do. Okay, so we got the carrot juice and the cashews and the coconut oil, the maple syrup, and we're going to add some coconut nectar. And this is a great product. I don't know if people are familiar with this. This is a great product because it's lower glycemic. And it says more nutritious than agave. I don't do agave at all in any of my classes.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's stopping.
Yeah,
even
the clear agave. David Wolf says clear agave is okay. But
he does?
Yeah, he does. But I still don't even do agave because for me, I found it spikes my blood sugar more than maple syrup does. Even believe it or not, as sweet as maple syrup is, agave my body just doesn't like. So this actually I've had very good success with, and it's got more of that caramely flavor. So, and the reason I use half and half in this recipe, the maple syrup would make it too sweet.
Right.
This isn't quite as sweet as the maple syrup. And then this is a little thicker, so it balances the flavors better to use half and half. I mean, you could use all one or the other. If you use all maple syrup, I would use less than, because I do 1/3 of a cup of each. I would use like a half a cup of maple syrup at most. I wouldn't do the full 2/3 of a cup of liquid sweetener because that would be just too much.
Do you ever use brown rice syrup? Or?
Not in raw food. I would do it in my cooked recipes, because it's a whole grain, it's a whole sweetener. It's a whole food sweetener, which is nice. So, do about 1/3 of a cup.
Yeah, that's some sticky stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Every time I pour it, that's the trick, is getting it to stop.
It's getting it to stop.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's stringy.
It is. It's kind of like a little bit like molasses. Okay.
So, and then a little bit of cinnamon.
And some cinnamon. And you can use, I brought with me pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice, whatever you have on hand, whatever flavor combination that you like. What I do actually is I usually use pumpkin pie spice and then add a little dash of cinnamon because I'm a cinnamonaholic.
I am too.
I love my cinnamon.
I love a lot of cinnamon.
So, So that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just dump a little bit of this in. It takes 1.5 teaspoons. So we're going to put about a teaspoon in.
It's so astounding that
there's no pumpkin. And then we'll dump some of the regular cinnamon in it as well. And I think we have everything in there.
It smells good.
Does it? Nothing like fresh cinnamon. Okay. That's all there is to it. I'm just making sure all the little pieces of cashew are all just kind of blended up. And it just depends because I soak them really well, it blended up very quickly. If we use dry cashews and had to add a little more water, it would take a lot longer. You'd want to let it go for 2 or 3 minutes, but that's really easy. Thank you. And then you just pour it over your pie crust like that. And you stick it in the freezer until it's solid.
So how long is that usually?
It depends on how cold your freezer is. My parents keep their freezer very cold, so it can set up in a couple of hours. At my house, I keep it more on the not so frozen side, so it would take about 4 hours at my house.
And you already made one, which was lovely. And then while I cut this up, maybe if you want to describe
Talk about the whipped cream?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a whipped cashew cream, and it's very simple. It's just some cashews, some soaked cashews, about a cup of cashews, and I put some coconut oil in it to help. One, it helps kind of emulsify it and get it all blended up well, and it doesn't have such that strong cashew flavor, that nutty flavor. It helps get some of that and just make it more like a whipped cream, and keep it nice and white and light. And then you just add a little sweetener and a little salt, and you're good to go. I actually used the xylitol today. But if you're doing xylitol, you want to make sure that you get one that is not derived from corn. So there's one called the Ultimate Sweetener brand that I buy at the Vitamin Shop. And that's actually derived from birch trees. It's a byproduct of making paper. So, yeah.
Well, I did try that already, and I was amazed.
So we can put a little bit of that on top.
How delicious it is.
And then we didn't let this sit in the freezer, in the refrigerator, so it would be a lot thicker and set up because it's got the coconut oil in it. That's the other thing about the coconut oil. What it does is then when you refrigerate it,
then
it helps it set up and makes it a little more like an actual whipped cream.
Right. So let's try a
Okay.
bite.
Do you want any garnish or anything on it? There's all kinds of different ways you can garnish it too. I've got
That's phenomenal.
star anise, which always looks nice on top.
Yes.
So you can put one of those on top.
That's shocking.
So, or you can do pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin
that's
seeds
nice.
are a nice little touch too. So I'll put those on mine.
Yeah,
And make for a nice
I'll
garnish.
definitely. I have a pumpkin pie recipe that I've always really liked, but I'm gonna do this one instead.
That's about as quick and easy as it gets.
It's
for
amazing
desserts.
too.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to take some of your classes at Heal Yourself.
Yeah.
Or if I go over to the Whole Foods,
Whole
in
Foods
Rochester.
in Rochester Hills, yeah. That's
And-
a great, I like to do those there because they're nice introductory classes, and then I do the more detailed classes at Heal Yourself Institute.
Well, it's nice at Whole Foods because it's fresh in your mind. Then you can
Yeah.
do the grocery shop
Yeah.
and go home and try
Yep,
it.
a lot of people do that.
And for reference, your website is
Rawfoodteacher.com.
rawfoodteacher.com.
Yep, very easy to remember. I'm also, if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I'm rawfoodteacher on Twitter also.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This
Thank
was
you.
amazing. Thanks for coming to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe, and we will see you next time.